And I did want to ask you just generally about the feeling in Atlanta right now. I know you've been to protests. I know you also arranged the funeral for Rayshard Brooks. Just what has this past month been like for you?
It's very heavy
Yeah.
because as a mother to two young African American boys, but as a daughter of an African American man, a sister to two African American brothers, um, and being in Atlanta, this is the Mecca,
Yeah.
Black Hollywood, of the civil rights movement, of well-educated, well-spoken, well-traveled
Hmm.
people of color. And to see this Rayshard Brooks scenario happen here, the birthplace, of the SCLC, Martin Luther King, Ambassador Andy Young, it's disheartening
Yeah.
because we all thought Atlanta was bigger and better and more progressive than that.
Mm.
But that just goes to show you that this problem is deep rooted and it doesn't just hit, Minneapolis. It's just not in Florida. It's in places where they're very powerful African American people.
Yeah.
And so I'm just so proud of our district attorney, Paul Howard, who he definitely got on top of this situation, made sure the charges were filed, and he handled it expeditiously, in the words of T.I.
Yeah.
And so it made me very proud as an attorney. It made me proud as a woman of color, but it made me proud as a citizen of Atlanta that, we didn't handle it like Kentucky. This is not Breonna Taylor.
Hmm.
We have made sure that justice was served and that there was a speedy investigation. It was swift.
Yeah.
And that's what we need to see across the board, that is swift.
And for you, planning the service, what was the most important thing for you that you wanted to make sure was conveyed?
I work with Willie Watkins, and if you watch the show, you've seen us. We've worked together for well over a decade now.
Yeah.
And for our firm, service is always first. And so we're always concerned with making sure that, we carry out the wishes of, the family, and making sure that we provide adequate support during the time of planning, but also after. And so it has been very important to me as a woman to check up on Tamika every day. We've talked every day to her and her mother every day. I have personally, to make sure, are you okay? And just to encourage her, because during the time where you're making plans and it's all over the news, everyone's around for the right reasons and sometimes the wrong reasons. And so I know personally in my own life, having lost people who were very important to me, the loneliness after the ceremony, after the homegoing. And so I just wanted to make sure that her and her 4 children know that I'm there, I'm of service, whatever that they need. And so we talk every day.
Well, it's nice to feel that sense of community still after the fact too.
Definitely. After the fact, there has to be support.
And now my last question is, I know you do have 2 boys. They are young. Hopefully change is coming before, they get to become teenagers. But have you already had conversations with them about everything? And how are you preparing that next conversation?
My youngest son, who's 7, just recently turned 7, Mr. President, Dylan, when he kept seeing, because I'm a hard news, I love hard news. And so he saw George Floyd, and he said, "Mommy, why is the police officer stepping on that man under that car? What is happening to him?" And that's always difficult as a parent, because obviously I want my children to know that every police officer isn't bad, every police officer isn't racist, but at the same time, the outcomes for people of color have been very different than Caucasian people who do the same things. And so we had a very long conversation about when things go wrong for people, and it's not always about what they did. Sometimes it's about the color of their skin. And so I had to explain to them, sometimes when people see people of color, they have formed a stereotype that might not actually be correct. And so, we talked about how sometimes you see a dog and you're afraid, not because the dog has done anything to you, and this is in no way to compare people to animals,
Right.
but I had to put it in
Words
the
they'll
language that they
understand.
understand, because they're younger and they're little boys, and they're in first, second grade now. And so I explained to them, sometimes people will see your skin color and they might not have the opportunity to speak to you, but because they have been taught things that might not exactly be true, they might not view you as the young man, the president that you will be or you are at this current time. And so he understood it. And so we took, we are very familiar with, everything. We talk about body shaming, and we talk about being nice and being considerate, because I want them to be very aware that, just because something looks different does not mean that it's bad.
Yeah.
And that's something that people have to teach their children. Differences are beautiful. That doesn't make it wrong. It sometimes makes it very right,
Yeah.
And so we have those conversations, but I just try to keep it in perspective for their age,
They're young.
because they are young.